Good morning, friends. My name is Dr. Jade Erasmus, and in partnership with AWR360, I have committed to sharing Bible health treasures with you from wherever I happen to find myself. If you've watched a previous episode, you will know that I'm back home in Stateville, and this is my garden. As always, today especially, we're going to be reminded of our motto, which is that if it is in the Bible, I believe it. If it doesn't line up with what the Bible teaches, then it's not for me. With that in mind, I'd like to wish you a happy Sabbath. We have been blessed with the most incredible, unpredicted rain yesterday. The garden is wet and nourished and absolutely gleaming from the recent rains. Now, usually, directly after rains like this, I would get going immediately, working with the soil, mixing in compost where it has to be added, pruning plants, planting new seeds, training things. But today is Sabbath, and I'm taking a rest. Let's talk for a moment about why that is. What did God have in mind? In our previous few episodes, we have been looking in more detail at this contrast, this controversy between Christ and Satan. God teaches us in His Word that He created a perfect world, a world free from pain, free from sin, a world that was beautiful in every way, a world that He declared to be good at every step of creation. And after creating man with His own hands, He declared it to be very good. At the end of creation, we read a clear account of God resting. Not resting because He was exhausted or tired, but resting in the completion of a perfect creation. And God declared that day to be holy. He set it apart, which is what it means to sanctify something. The Creator had the authority to do that because He made this creation. He created everything. And He set aside a special day and declared it to be holy and instructed Adam and Eve to rest with Him on that day. To rest in the knowledge that He's the Creator, to rest in the knowledge that He is in control, to rest in the understanding that He has the very best in mind for them, to rest in complete trust in Him as their Maker and Creator. And then, throughout the Bible, the Sabbath is mentioned 107 times. Over and over and over, we read an emphasis where God emphasizes the importance of keeping our trust in Him, the importance of us continuously recognizing His authority as Creator, and the importance of us setting aside time each and every week as a special appointment with Him. Many people argue that the Sabbath is the Jewish Sabbath, but that doesn't make any sense. You see, the Jewish nation didn't even exist when God gave the 10 Commandments to the Israelites. And in fact, when He gave them those 10 Commandments, the Sabbath commandment specifically says, remember, highlighting the fact that it was not the first mention of it. In that commandment, in the wording, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, God points us directly back to the account of creation when He first gave the instruction to keep the Sabbath holy, to set it apart. The Sabbath was never intended to be exclusive. The Sabbath was part of the health and wellness principles established at creation. As we mentioned in our previous episodes, everything that God created was for our good, for our well-being. When He created water, when He separated the waters from the waters, when He created the atmosphere, when He created the sunlight and the moon and the stars, when He set the rhythms in place and the day and night, rest time, awake time, when God created all the greenery and all the plants and everything that was nourishing for food, when He set those principles in place, it was the very principles necessary, the very elements necessary in our environment for our sustaining health. And the Sabbath is no exception to that. Throughout the Bible, the Sabbath is emphasized over and over. In the book of Exodus, we read the account where the Israelites were taken out of captivity and they were reminded of the Sabbath that was already put in place at creation. From then onwards, the book of Leviticus, the book of Deuteronomy, over and over, people are reminded to remember to rest on God's Sabbath day, to remind them of His authority as Creator, to remind them of His blessings as the Creator who bestows all of those blessings, which includes His sustaining power for their lives, and to remind them that He is their Redeemer. Every sight and sound around us is a reminder that people have forgotten the very commandment that says, remember. Around us, people are having bike rallies, car races, they're doing renovation projects on their homes, they're working in their gardens, they're working at their businesses, and every single Sabbath day passes with millions and millions of people all around the world forgetting to rest on the day that God asks us to rest. How does this tie in with our health? Well, we have already mentioned that it was very clear in the account of creation and the account of the fall that it was disobedience that caused the problems. Adam and Eve were in perfect harmony when they were obedient to God's instructions. When they gave in to the temptation to mistrust God, to believe that God had lied to them, and to disobey God's clear and precise instructions, they lost the peace of mind. They experienced the first account of anxiety, of fear, of anxiousness over meeting with their Creator. They hid themselves because they were fearful of coming into His presence. That is the very definition of illness and disease. And from then onwards, from that moment when they were separated through disobedience, the world started experiencing a process of degradation, of falling apart at the seams. And the very end result of that is evident all around us. The chaos, the degree to which people are absolutely encased in anxiety and stress and depression and fearfulness and worry. This is not the result of living in harmony with the Creator and His perfect instructions. Now, the next question that people often ask is the Sabbath still valid? Once we've established that the Sabbath instruction was for all of creation, the question is it still valid now? Why do people not heed this instruction? Why do they worship on a different day? The Sabbath was never changed by Jesus. Jesus very clearly states that I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. To fulfill something means to live it out, to show that it can be done, to show that one can live in 100% obedience with God's instructions. Jesus also states, if you love me, keep my commandments. He never, ever, ever instructed people that the commandments were no longer valid. Jesus Himself kept the Sabbath in His life of ministry and throughout His life. Jesus Himself rested in the tomb on the Sabbath day. Jesus also answered the question about how long the Sabbath commandment will still be valid. When the disciples asked Him the question, show us the signs of when these things will be, Jesus painted a picture to them of events at the end of time. He paints a picture of chaos, of noise, of people living for themselves and for their own selfish gain. And in this picture, He mentions to them, pray that your flight be not on the Sabbath, highlighting that at the very end of time, the Sabbath instruction for rest will still be valid. Now here, I can only share my own personal testimony. Every single Sabbath, As a family, we take a complete break. We don't do the things we normally do. We don't work on the things we normally work on. We don't do our gardening. We don't go to our offices. We don't do anything that is part of our daily working routine. We prepare for Sabbaths. We prepare our meals. We prepare our home. We do all of the cleaning. And for a full 24 hours, from sunset on Friday evening to sunset on a Sabbath evening, we take a rest. Not just a rest of laziness and sleeping away the day, but a rest from all that we work on during the week. A rest from the worries and cares of the world. And we rest in the complete knowledge that we serve a mighty Creator who is also mighty to save. We rest in full trust in our Creator and Redeemer. And it has been a marvelous, marvelous boost to our health. Every single week, we rest and feel the rejuvenation of spending time in Bible study and spending time with our Creator. We rest by spending the whole day praising God and thinking about the ways in which He has cared for us. And that has been a tremendous cure to our worries, stresses, and concerns that happen during the week. We take a complete downtime and start the new week with new energy, with a sense of peace that we cannot explain to those around us. I would like to invite you to study out this topic. This has by no means been a comprehensive Bible study on this, but the Bible is filled with information, and God promises that if you seek me with all your heart, you will find. If you have questions about this, if you have questions about the validity of the Sabbath for us as Christians today, I invite you to study this out. You can look at the verses I'm going to post in the description box. You can look at the videos that explain more about who actually was behind the changing of the Sabbath. And I invite you to prayerfully ask God to show you the truth about this topic. In our next videos, we're going to continue unpacking more health principles from the Bible. And I hope that you will continue on this journey with us as we discover what God's ideal is for us. He says in the Bible very clearly that He wishes for us to have life, and life in abundance. My prayer is that you will experience that this coming week as well.